Do-do-do-do.
I love how that music just ends. How long did it take you to get that timing right?
Oh, so what I did is StreamYard, you can have up to 5-minute videos. So I just took the song and then I was like, boom, just cut it perfect to it. So
Right,
I did the reverse.
right.
So
Well, you are the timing king. I still use my stream timer every Sunday at 10 a.m.
as you should. I still use it all the time. And I mean, not with StreamYard, although I did just do a video on my YouTube on how to use my stream timer plus StreamYard for customization of all awesome, basically. So
Yeah, I was watching some YouTube live streams. There was the rocket ship. What's the big Elon rocket called? Rocket ship, I
SpaceX,
think. Yeah,
rocket
that's the
ship.
company. Whatever, the big rocket. They were doing a static fire test today, and so I was watching. There's like a really cool YouTube community that's like a space rocket freak community. It's really
I
good,
like that. I like that. We just
and they
finished.
had good game, good Twitch game.
We just finished For All Mankind, season
Yeah,
one.
I haven't. I saw the old one. I haven't seen the new one.
There's an old one.
Yeah,
Wait, what?
you're talking
Is
about the
this
Apollo thing, right?
yeah? For All Man.
It was called. Oh wait, which one am I talking about?
This is
No,
the
you're talking about
Apple
the
one.
Apple fiction one.
Yes,
Okay, sorry. There is a new Right Stuff nonfiction one. But yeah,
oh,
I like the Apple one too. That was a good one.
it's
I
very
binge
good because
watched that like a year ago. I don't remember it.
it's the one with the Russians like beat us or whatever. The alternate, but still like very relatively accurate. And then at the same time, we there was the Falcon Swiftress says.
Oh,
Harrison says hello. You can see the chat. You should be able to see the chat
I
here.
always forget to click. You have to go to the comments tab. It's not
You do, not the
default.
private chat. You have to do that. And already
Hi
James
everyone.
in the chat has seen. Well, he caught 2/3 of my spoiler here. See what's going on here? One, two, three.
Just to show off, just gloating. I didn't get a
Uh, uh.
3090. I didn't get an Xbox.
I got 3 Xboxes. You know why? Because I used to work at GameStop, and I'm a pro at pre-ordering devices. I don't know. I don't know. It's not that
Okay,
hard.
so you were bragging last time, but you said something ridiculous like 10 computers. How many computers did you actually use to accomplish this feat?
One
One
computer,
physical computer.
one
Good job.
computer.
Good skills.
So, so Lachlan here, surprise podcast. That's correct. You know, it's an Apple event, so you know we're
Hey, Lachlan.
podcasting. You know we're doing that. That's how we do. Frank actually didn't know, and then he's like, "We're doing this live," and I was like, "Yes." Ooh, he's got one of my favorite
Oh
beers
yeah.
from Black Raven.
This is my watching the Seahawks beer because I don't even remember. It's a
Solid.
tradition.
I'm drinking some wine from Descendant Cellars over in Woodinville, Washington. Very delicious. I just got my shipment because instead of doing 2
Get a
shipments this
shipment.
year, they're just I only have 2 winery club memberships, and this is one because I was there November with my sister and my brother-in-law and my wife, and I drank a little bit too much, and I was like, "This is a great wine," and I was like, "I'm
Yeah, I love
totally
that.
signing up for the club. I get how much off? Oh my goodness!" Anyway, their
I
wine's super good, so all the Woodinville wine's good.
I got drunk on really dry cider, so I'm like, I must really love dry cider. It turns out no, you have to have a lot of dry cider to like dry cider.
That is correct. That is correct. Well, 2 big events today, .NET Conf and the Apple event. We'll get to it soon, but yes, we have Xbox Series X, 2 S's. Frank, let me tell you something here. They're not for me. Well, one of them's for me. The top one is for me. That one's from the company store, so I can't get rid of that one. I can't gift it to anybody, nor can I
Right,
sell it. But I would
right.
never sell any of these consoles because I don't roll that way. I'm not about trying to make a quick dollar off of people. Listen, this one right here, this one, see this one in the middle,
How
Frank?
generous of you. Yes.
I don't know. You used to work at Microsoft. You know about Give Month at
Yeah,
Microsoft?
sure, sure. Do they do like matching? It was like some special matching too, I think, during Give Month.
There's like matching, a 5K, there's the auction,
Yeah.
there's different events, poker, all that stuff, right? That you can
Hmm.
participate in. So there's an auction that we have where you can do a bunch of stuff. One is for like dyeing Scott Hunter's hair color, and like there's, virtual things. So I decided that,
Oh,
hey,
oh, the
go
only story I know from that is I
oh,
think one year Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer jumped into this skanky little pond on campus, and we used to always have lunch by that skanky little pond. So it was
Lake
always
Bill.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, probably Lake Bill, which is over by 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So this one here, this Xbox Series S, which is the all digital one, that one I decided to put up for auction over here. I raised $800 for charity. It goes
Nice.
to the Boys and Girls Club, and then Microsoft matches that. So this Xbox raised $1,600 for charity. Can you believe that?
All right. All right. Your clicking is proving yourself, but okay.
But what about this one, Frank says? There's one more. This is the big boy. This is the Series X. That's the $500 one. That goes
The
to my
virtue
friend.
signaling's killing me.
That goes to a friend. Not you, Frank, but my friend Michael. That's his Christmas present.
That's nice. Does he know? It's a
Yeah,
long wait.
pretty
It's
pretty
a
much.
long time to wait. You're gonna make him wait?
No, I mean
Thanksgiving
I'm sending it to him tomorrow.
Okay.
Or I'm just gonna sit here. No, I'm gonna take these down. Hold on, let me take. I'm fearful that this whole thing is gonna fall.
Yeah, don't
So,
break the
this
gift.
one's mine. I get to keep that one.
Look at his hair.
E-company store. I'm gonna take.
He's
these
definitely
two.
transcended Beatles at this point.
Pretty good.
He's
This
almost to
one,
Mr.
8
Rogers.
pounds. This one. Oh god. 14 pounds.
Is it really? Is the power brick
There's a Master Chief
inside
on the back. I can't hear
the
you right now,
console?
but bam, we did it. Anyways, let's ship it out.
What do you think, folks? How
Okay, I'm
ridiculous
back.
is he being?
Spent way too much money on Xboxes. Let's just say that. Anyways, it was fun. What I do is I have I just have all the browsers open, and 14 pilots is the way of my hair. That's correct. I got a trim recently. I got trims. I'm just saying, Lachlan. I said no. I'm not cutting my hair or cutting it any shorter until what are we in right now?
I think it's December,
Quarantine.
January.
Until COVID's done, not cutting my hair, Frank. So we got years to go. Prepare yourself, sir.
I believe my mom said to me yesterday, the virus will never be gone. And I was like, oh, thanks for
Yeah.
the wisdom.
Because, I mean, how long did polio take to eradicate? And yeah.
So
but
your hair's going to be quite long. Okay.
it is. I'm going for a Keanu, which we've talked about in the podcast. Last time we went, we talked about how I was going for the Keanu.
Your bangs
but
are fighting you. You have a natural wave that's not letting you have the full Keanu. It's got to get really long to get rid of the wave.
Can I tell you something, though, Frank? All right.
Just between us.
I'm 100% in on augmented reality, Frank.
Hey, Alexander. Oh, is that game? I was curious how good that was.
This is the Mario Kart Live home circuit. You set up gates all around your house. We talk about it on tomorrow's Nintendo Dispatch podcast, nintendodispatch.com. See, there's a camera up there. See that? Mm-hmm. So
I've seen the commercial.
This camera, you set up the gates, and it puts in augmented reality. All the gates change. There's enemies that are going around, and you drive this puppy around your house, and you see it on the screen on the Nintendo Switch in front of you. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen and played in my entire life. I love it.
Is the tracking pretty good? Like, this is the old RC cars are fun, but the moment you go around a bend, they're not so fun. So does it solve the you can drive it in the other room kind of problem?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. So they say, Nintendo, that for optimal performance, you should be within 5 meters from the cart, which is 15 feet. So in our place, I was in the living room, and it's kind of like okay. So this is what how does it look? This is how our
That's exactly what a house looks like.
this is what a house looks like.
That's
So
what I was thinking.
you enter here, and like there's the kitchen's here, but like and a wall is here, but it doesn't go all the way, right? So imagine that my finger is this. So like you walk into the kitchen. So I made the cart go all the way here and then down and stuff. So once I turned the corner and got into the kitchen, it did drop signal a little bit. It hiccuped a little bit. However, I was as far away as from that point as possible, right? So if I was going to do it right, I could have sat in the kitchen, which I would have been in the middle of the course. So, but overall, it's pretty flawless. And it's really fun because like all augmented reality, you're playing and like it's cool because there's all these effects that are coming in, right? There's like all this stuff that's coming in. There's wind pushing your cart and you're getting hit by shells. So you're like, oh, wow, this. And it looks like fun on this. Then you look to the right and it's just like, just this little cart just kind of going, which is amazing.
Soundtrack to probably adds to it. I was thinking now that you have a multimeter, maybe we can get you to do some signal boosting mods. Just pump a little more power through that antenna. See how far we can get this
I
thing to
like
go.
that. I'm into that.
You know, it's all just regulations. If you ignore the regulations, it can work a lot better.
I got yet another package. We got so many packages today. Where's
Do
this
you
package?
use the switchy for that? How are you controlling it?
The
The
switchy.
switcheroo?
The Nintendo
The
Switch.
Nintendo switcheroo?
Yeah, so you scan a QR, you download the game, and then you scan a QR code with the card, and that's how it synchronizes and pairs itself.
Yeah, like
You
that.
control it with the Switch. So you can have it on the TV, or you can have it in your hand. It's convenient.
I like it. It's like a drone. Cheap
I'm
drone.
all in. I'm all in.
Ground
Anyways, I
drone.
did buy a multimeter, Frank. I am now a certified electrical engineer. I can now
Well, as they
use
say,
iCircuit.
Disassembling's easier than assembling. We'll see. We'll see if this TV gets working again. No, I don't doubt you. I believe you can do it.
Anything is possible. I bought a multimeter from Home Depot. Frank,
Is it
I
around?
call.
Let's see it.
Oh, I can go grab it. Okay, let me grab it. All right.
I really love multimeters. I'm just really interested in his multimeter. But the truth is, I really am into crap. I like bad multimeters. I think the worse your multimeter is, the better you are as an engineer. We're going to have a competition now to see which one of us has the worst one.
I'm going to put these books back up so it looks like I'm smart.
I got a feeling he probably spent about $100, though.
There we go.
Ooh, you have a Fluke? That's a nice
Putting on my headphones. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so Frank, I called you. I called you and I said, Swifters must have tweeted at me so that Lachlan says use his tongue. Now that only works on 9-volt batteries, I think. So I called Frank. You were riding your bicycle or something?
I was on the one wheel.
You were on the one wheel.
Yeah, I
So
don't exert myself. Just I surf.
so the wind was blowing and I was like, Frank, I need electrical engineering assistance. And you came to my rescue. This is what I bought. And what did you tell me?
I said, James, absolutely get a multimeter, but they're all about the same quality these days, so get the cheapest one that you can find. I preferred the old $15 ones from Radio Shack, but I don't think Radio Shack exists anymore.
That's a good question. There used to be one downtown Seattle back when I first moved there, right?
Yeah.
So I bought the commercial electric multimeter.
Oh my God, you actually got one with a meter.
What's that mean?
You did. So most of them, like even the $15 ones, are digital.
Oh, this one's $15.
I love it. It has a meter. You win. You absolutely win this round. That is gorgeous.
And there's a little thing on the
Gorgeous.
side. I don't know what this does.
Don't touch
Something.
it.
I'm not gonna touch it. Okay, so there's a lot of things on here.
Yeah, there are. I love it. These are the only downside to the analog ones are they have to print multiple scales. So you just have to be careful which scale you're looking at.
Yeah,
when you're
that's what
writing
I wasn't
numbers.
sure. There's this down here. I was doing the ohms, and there's 1x and 10x.
Right.
So I think I did 1x.
Yeah. I
Maybe.
hope.
I don't
Maybe
know.
easier to read.
Basically, the thing went all the way to the right or didn't move at all. So
Sure.
and that's good, right?
Yeah.
Because it should either have like unlimited ohms or no ohms. Or I mean, it could have in the red. There's a replace.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's like the old. I think that's for like AA and C batteries.
Oh, replace. Oh, it does say bat on it. Bat.
Yeah. It's so cool. That's such like a 80s or
That's not what I get the wrong thing.
78. No, it's perfect.
Okay,
It's
good.
perfect.
It comes with little thingies. That's good. Little.
In retrospect, I think I would have told you to get a digital one just to save yourself a headache, but I love it. It's perfect.
There you go. It was $15 at Home Depot. So I don't know if it was the cheapest, but I'm sure that I could have went to Walmart, except for I just didn't want to walk into a Walmart and open myself up to.
A store is a store.
Yeah, it's about as Walmart.
Okay.
No. I don't know, I'm just not a big Walmart fan personally. If there's a store, if I'm going to go to a store, it's not going to be a Walmart. No offense to Walmart, I just don't like Walmart that much. I'm going to go to a
don't have
Target
any
or
near
Home
me.
Depot. Yeah, I guess the closest Walmart in Seattle is what?
By the airport.
Yeah, in South Center.
Yeah, it is. That's the closest. No judgment.
Yeah, switches, no judgment. I mean, Frank told me to get the cheapest one, so I did. I
It's
think
absolutely perfect. My grandpa would be, yeah. My grandpa used a light bulb with 2 dangling wires. That was his multimeter.
I'm looking here because it came with a AA battery, which I had to unscrew the back and put it in. So in stock, oh, there actually is. Oh my God, there is actually a digital multimeter for
Yeah.
$13. How did I miss that?
Yeah.
This one was
40.
$15. I paid $2 more for this one.
Ah, well, you got the classic. You're just living that classic life.
Should I go back and get the digital?
I don't know, double exposure.
That's true.
You said it worked.
It did work. I mean, that's funny. So I don't know what any of these does. I know that I need to do the ohms though, right? That's what you told me. There's a voltage,
Well,
an
you use the
amperage.
ohms to find out if you have a short circuit or an open circuit. If you want to know if 2
Mm.
points that are physically separated are electrically connected, you put your little probes on there. If it says 0 ohms, they're electrically connected. If it gives something bigger, they're less connected. So that's what that's for.
I put the black one on the ground and put the red one on the circuit.
Oddly, when you're just doing ohms, because there should be no power in the circuit, it doesn't matter, red or black.
Oh. But one needs to go on the ground.
One needs to go somewhere. Voltages are always differences.
Okay.
So, sure, ground.
So I tweeted my photo out of it. So my plasma TV has this issue. Basically, one of the things has it reported 0, it reported nothing. It didn't move. Where there was 2 kind of prongs next to each other, and they both should have had the same ohmage. And one had some and one didn't. So I bought a replacement part. I'm very excited and hope it comes in. I hope it fixes my TV.
Yeah. Were there many wires, or did it just kind of snap in?
Oh no. This TV, it's a thing of beauty, Frank. Like it is like it's very elegant. Let me see if I can find it's on my media. Oh, come on. How do I log into Twitter? Hold on, let me find this photo over here. Media. Didn't I tweet it out? Yes, right here. I'll put it in the chat. Okay, so I guess you can't really click on that link.
You can't click on it. Software.
I'll put it in the private chat. That works.
No, I'm fine. I got it.
Okay.
I
So
can copy and paste.
if you zoom into this photo, actually I can. Let me put this on the. Let me put this on the tube. Let me put this on the tubesicles. Share screen. Screen 1. A lot of people were very excited, by the way, that I got the multimeter and that I was trying to save this plasma. So people were very excited about this, Frank.
People and their plasmas. I get you, but like, have you seen an OLED screen? They're pretty good these days.
They are. The problem is, Frank, here's my conundrum. I started to do all this research about like,
Don't do research. Listen to me.
well, I was like, what TV do I want? Do I want an LED? Do I want an OLED? Do I want a QLED? Do I want a nano cell technology thing? Do I need the 4K? Do I need well, they're all 4K now. Do I need the 120 hertz? Do I need the Ultra HD? Do I need the QVC HDR Ultra mode? I don't know what I need. Like, I could just go to Costco and get the $500 TV, right? I could go do that. It's going to be great. It's going to be probably better than the plasma, maybe. The darks won't be as dark because it's the plasma. But then I'm like, I'm going to miss out on all of these features that I'm never going to use that I'm going to need to pay more money for. Exactly.
How about an environmental argument? That thing takes way more power.
It does. I think the running cost is like $70 a year or something if you had it on like 24/7.
Right.
Anyways, okay, so here's the thing. You can see where I zoomed in on here on the.
Yep.
So there's 2 of these. You see these here, these little
Yep.
guys.
Little
So what they
ribbon
normally
crackers.
say is one of these will short.
Wait, you got Hanselman software? Are you running Hanselman software?
Yeah, of course.
Where'd you
This
get
is
these little
Zoom It.
arrows from?
This is just Zoom It, part of sysinternals.
Sysinternals. That's the
yeah.
trickery. I
So,
call
okay,
it
so-
Hanselman software.
Hanselman software. I've been using Zoom It.
Oh, okay. I'm
9 years.
sorry.
Anyways, okay, so here are the boards. There's the SU board, the SD board, the SC board, okay? And most of the time, one of these are going to go bad. So they say either this will go bad, I mean, you got to replace that, or one of these
whole
little
board.
circuits, or this. Or you got to replace the
Little
whole
power
board.
transistors, little MOSFETs. What are they?
These are MOSFETs. That is correct.
Yeah.
They say probably a MOSFET will go bad. Anyways, MOSFETs, good. Awesome. Then
Okay.
they said most likely the
How do you know that?
because I tested them.
Okay.
I did the ohm test.
Yeah, that's doesn't really apply to transistors.
Well, I don't care, Frank. That's what the YouTube video told me to do.
Okay.
So then, anyways,
I won't argue with YouTube.
then they said that this is probably the issue. And they said most likely what happened is you'll receive 0 ohms. And that means that there's a little chip underneath this little heatsink board here and that something has shorted there. So like if you don't receive any power in these things or ohms, then something here is wrong.
What are
So-
they? I don't recognize them.
These are ribbons. These are little ribbons.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there's little squares under here, basically. I don't know. There's so many you need it. It's a cool looking device. So anyways, then down here, so I tested all of these. I took these little ribbons off. I tested all of them. Everything's good. But the problem is, let me zoom back in, is that this one right here that connects this board to this board and this board to this board, this, which has like little tiny things down here that kind of connect it. So I tested it. Okay, right in there. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one reported all the way to the right. And then this one reported nothing. So this one has nothing, 0. Garbage.
So that makes you think it's which board now?
This one, that's D board. Because see, this one right here is attached to this board.
Okay.
So I think it's this board here.
Okay.
You don't think so?
It's not that I don't think so. It's just so little evidence. It's like, oh, we found a knife on the ground. That person must have been the murderer. It's like, okay.
That's very
I
true.
mean, someone murdered him.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know, right? Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to say. And like over here, it's funny because I've opened it up before, and the problem I had is that whenever the screen would go really dark, it would hum. It would go hum, like pretty audibly.
Oh,
And it's
gosh.
because the screws got a little loose, like over time,
Oh,
and they weren't
goodness,
making
how much power is going through there.
exactly. They're making a lot of contacts. So, anyways, I just had to screw them back in. Anyways, this TV weighs like 85 pounds. It's so heavy. It's so heavy. Hector asked,
So,
what are we working
Hector,
on?
yeah.
Yeah. I'm on my multimeter skills. That's what I'm working
He
on.
is trying to repair his plasma TV.
Yes.
Wish him luck.
It's 9 years old. It's going there. And in fact, probably Swiftress says, bought an LG Nano 4K for $500. Ooh. I just got
Yeah.
an Xbox notification. That's weird.
Ooh, another one?
I don't know. Weird. Anyways,
The quest continues.
so anyways, that's my conundrum of the
I love it.
TV. Anyways, I hope it works. It was $20, right? $20 plus a multimeter for 15, which means this is a solid investment.
That's a lifetime investment. You're going to be using that when you're 80.
Am I?
Better not lose that.
It's been 35 years, Frank, and I've never used a multimeter.
I've bought one in my life and I stole one of my friends, and I still have both.
That's good. I am excited because then when, something goes wrong, I can be like, Frank, what do I need to do? And you'll be like,
And
get the
then I'll say-
multimeter.
Try to figure out which scale on that multimeter to use.
1x, 10x. If 1x doesn't report anything, bump it up.
Yeah.
Well, so I have voltage. That makes sense, right? That's like voltage.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's two
Is there a
voltages.
scalar there? Yeah, it might be a multiplier.
Okay, that's what I got. Hold on, let me put this up here.
There's usually an AC voltage and a DC voltage. Yeah, so you have one with the squiggly line.
Yes.
That's for doing power off of the wall, off the
Oh.
mains. Yeah. And you see that goes up pretty high, so you can even do 2-phase and probably 3-phase with it. The
that one?
voltage on my on video right is your DC. What does that actually say? Can't read the word for some reason. It's too blurry.
It has a line on the top and then 3 dots on the bottom.
Yeah, that's DC. It's a
Okay.
funny way to write DC. That went up to quite high voltage also.
300 all the way down to 2.5.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
Swiffer
you'll
says
probably
don't
keep
mix
that
them
one.
up.
Yeah. You'll probably keep it on 10 whenever you're doing like little IoT kind of circuity stuff. And then if you're ever doing wall stuff, put the squiggly one on like 200 or higher.
What's amperage?
Yep. So amperage is when you do voltage, you're testing the voltage between two different points.
Mm.
When you test current, you are actually becoming a part of the circuit. So the current actually travels through the device. So you got to be pretty careful when you're testing
I'm
the
gonna I'm
when
gonna
you're
kill
using the
myself.
current mode.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna kill myself. And then there's a battery, 9 volt and 1.5 volt. That means I can test batteries and see if there's juice in them.
Yeah, it's just like a quick test. So just put it on that mode. Yeah. That's kind of
Interesting.
clever. I like that.
It's gonna go right in my closet. I'm never gonna use it again.
Oh, come on.
Um,
So my friend has one in his closet and it gets used every time I visit and he makes me use it.
oh,
Yeah,
that's
there
right.
we go.
Well, Heather did say call up Frank, have him drive over, and I said, I don't wanna.
It's a long drive. It's
It is
cold
a long
out
drive.
there. Gotta go
It's
through the
cold.
mountains.
It's cold out here. All right, what are we talking about today, Frank? We got to record a podcast.
Well, honestly, I thought we would do .NET Conf, so I'm just re-gauging for iOS talk,
All
Mac
right, well,
talk,
let's do
and One
.NET.
talk.
We'll do a .NET Conf best favorite topic.
Oh, right now?
Yeah, we'll do
Uh,
both of them. We'll do .NET Conf and. Should it be its own episode? What do
I
people
think
think?
it should. I
We
mean, we
need a
could just do a
two.
2-hour episode.
Ugh, how much wine do I have left? That's true. Well, we could do two
I'm just kidding.
episodes: .NET Conf, .NET 5 launch, and then the Apple event.
Yeah. So if I had
Oh
to
man,
pick one, I'm kind of with Swift REST, where it's I was gonna do C#9 records.
2 in 1 day, Hector says. I just did a presentation on records. They're amazing. Although I don't think I can use it in Xamarin and stuff yet. Pretty sure.
Should work. Like Continuous does it. Like
Did you
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 can,
upgraded your project?
yeah. Like it has C#9,
Hmm.
the newest version of Continuous. So like I have records working there, like in an interpreter. So yeah, Xamarin supports them just fine. Okay, that said, I did do a little bit of trickery because the SDKs didn't compile exactly correctly, but it was rookie mistake. I just fixed their mistake and moved on.
Yeah, I need to. I don't know. I need to read some documentation. That's what I need to do.
Lack of a main function. No one. Yeah.
No way. That's gonna be awesome. Who needs a main function? You don't need a main function. It's stupid. You know what it does? It just sits around, doesn't do anything. No. Yeah.
Well, on iOS, all it does is call UI application main.
That's very true.
So it's like literally you do nothing in main.
Create that app delegate and get out. That's
See,
usually, I would say,
delegate.
all my mains are like, I really think that this. Okay, we should just record this stupid podcast. Get on the Zencaster.
Oh, right. That's how
Just
we
gotta
do
get
podcasts.
also get on there too. What I could do is we'll figure it out. We'll see how it goes. We'll riff. Are you in there? He's in there. Okay, you can't hear me on there, but your little wave should move. Yeah.
Is my wave moving? Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Cool. All right. Here we go. 3, 2. Frank, oh my goodness, .NET 5 is out.
I feel like it's been out for a year, but again, time has no meaning. So, like, maybe it's been out for 10 years, maybe it's been out for 5 years. Either way, we know it's out now, and now is all that matters. So, yes.
Let me say
Good,
though.
happy .NET 5 day.
Yes, happy .NET 5 Day. But at the same time, Frank, we are recording this on November 10th, which is a pinnacle day because not only is it the Xbox Series X and Series S launch day, but Apple decided to make it another launch day by launching a brand new SoC, which, by the way, Apple had one of the best illustrations and explanations of system on a chip that I've ever had. It's better than you, Frank. It's better than you. It was so good. I'm like, wow, I understand a system on a chip now. Like, thank you, Apple. But all of that in .NET Conf, amazing.
I'm just sorry. I just have to defend myself. How many graphic designers did they have? We are in audio medium. Usually today, oddly enough, we're on video, but usually we are in audio medium. I can't have graphics. I can't have my presentation materials. I could have done that good. I'm just kidding. Oh my God, they're. I feel like their presentations are like obnoxiously good now. Did you see the one where like a slide transitioned from the bottom floor to the top floor and it went on to the next screen and the
Yeah.
camera shifted up? I was just like, okay, you're just showing off. Whatever production company they hired, and I want to do my homework and find out who these people are. You're just showing off. Like,
Yeah.
stop it.
That's all they're doing is they're basically just showing off nonstop, I would say, and I'm okay with it. This was an exciting Apple event. This was an exciting .NET Conf today. It's still going for 2 more days. I'm going to be on camera tomorrow. There's going to be, I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff going on. Let's just get into it. We're going to do a multi-pod series here. We're going to do elongated with a sponsor break in between. But if you're using an application that has chapters, I'm gonna put chapters. I'm gonna do that for you. I'm putting chapters in. So let it be known now. I don't usually don't put in chapters. You know why, Frank?
Are you prepping me for a really long episode here? You don't put chapters in because our conversations are free flowing. They're like waves in the sea. You can't really distinguish them.
I was just gonna say because I was lazy, but yes,
Oh,
exactly.
that too. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always go with the artistic interpretation, dude. Never say the L word.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
excited, yeah, because I was excited. I knew we were going to record today. I didn't know what we were going to record on because there was so much stuff going on. So I thought we would just do an epic episode, but I have no idea where we're going to go with this. I'm just hoping my internet connection stays on this time, honestly.
That's very, very true. I will say this though. I think it's good to do a two-parter because the Apple event I think we can cover relatively quick. But let's get into it. .NET Conf was this year. It's every year. It's like the 10th year anniversary of this thing. Started as MVC Conf and ASP.NET Conf. Now it's .NET Conf. And it's a virtual conference. They've been doing it for years. And by they, I mean Microsoft and the community together. Day one and day two are kind of like product team. And then there's another day and a half of community, 24-hour awesomeness. A bunch of people are presenting. I'm really stoked. The keynote I thought was fantastical. I was jazzed because you got the Scotts all together, the Scott Hunter, the Scott Hanselman, and the Scott Guthrie, who brought out the first ASP.NET like architecture book like that he wrote to draft what ASP.NET would be.
Yeah, it was fun. And they were playing up the red shirt thing. They all had red shirts on. It was all very cute. The design spec, I just kept growing oh gosh, I bet you like because he would be reading through it and he'd be like, ooh, or glad we fixed that part. Um, but then his retelling of the time when he first implemented ASP, I thought was really kind of inspirational and depressing at the same time. The inspirational part was it was kind of a glorious hack for a difficult problem. And it was nice to know that I make lots of little hacks and I never know like which ones are actually good and which ones will actually grow. And he was talking exactly to those points where it's good to get that kind of demo out to prove the concept because ASP wasn't something that existed before. Of course, it was going to seem odd and weird at the time because what he was targeting non-JavaScript. There was no .NET back then, so he was using the built-in Windows scripting runtime. It was crazy times, and it was just kind of inspiring to see that awesome hack turn into what it is today. The depressing part is the cycle just continues because like his description sounded like me working on Wii or everyone working on Blazor. We just keep cycling over and over on these APIs.
It truly is. I mean, especially when something's new and hasn't been done before. Of course, it's not like you're just adding a feature. It's something that is new. So it's actually been fun to watch Blazor evolve in a way. They announced Blazor WebAssembly pre-rendered, which is a really cool technology where you still have a server component and it pre-renders it on the server and sends it down, and it still works offline. So the user's machine has to do a lot less and it's a smaller payload because it's pre-rendering. That's what we use for live.net actually.
Mm.
And
We
there's
sorry, I have to interject. We
there we
does
go.
that, and your website does that. Sorry.
There you go, right?
Yeah, good
So
tech.
it's good tech, right? But you can kind of see it slowly, gradually evolve from server only to server pre-render to WebAssembly pre-render, kind of like mixing and matching these technologies. I will say it gets a little complicated. Especially when your mind's like, where is the code running? Remember
Hmm.
when I had to ask Heather, like I was building the ASP, like, where does
Yeah.
the code run? Like I don't understand. So
Especially in the Blazor world, I've done a few Twitch streams with it, and there was one episode where every time an exception would throw, the browser would lock up. And you're like, which side is causing the problem. And then eventually you're so happy when you actually get an exception on the browser side, but then you're like, where did that exception come from?
Where does this code
Which
live?
world? Yeah, yeah. It really makes you question reality. But when all of it's working, gosh, it's so smooth and nice. It's worth those temperamental little moments.
Yeah, we were doing the live.net website, live.net. That's Live dot dot net. Or when you go to the .net website, you can just click live TV up there. It's probably easier. But when we were developing that, it had gone through many stages. It went through being a Razor page to being a Blazor server to being a WebAssembly to being a WebAssembly pre-rendered. And it doesn't have to do a lot of interaction with JavaScript, but mostly the countdown and then also figuring out like the local time zones and stuff and sorting. So like we just figured out a bug after a week or two. I think I figured it out because there was an event that was happening in India, which again is like 12 and a half hours ahead. So like the server was sorting it on the UTC time, and then locally it was only updating the timestamp to the local time and not regrouping them. So we had to like figure out that, which is like, oh, and now reorder them because like where is the code running? Where is the data coming from? Like that's a good question. So
Yeah, it's you always think you have daytime figured out, and then someone schedules an event in India. Or, the lesson I was always taught was never use daytime, always use daytime offset because it's specifically about those groupings in the
yeah.
end. It has nothing to do with the logic or the data processing. It's all about UI at that point of putting it into the kind of right place and grouping it with the right events and all that. How did we get onto the topic of daytime here?
I don't know. You know what I'm excited for though, Frank? Number one new feature of .NET 5. Are you ready for it?
I have a number one myself, so what do you got?
I was watching Kathleen Dollard's session, and she was talking about I forgot who the one engineer that was with her. Oh, I'm so sorry. Javier, was it Javier? Maybe it been Javier. Anyways, they were talking about the new TFMs and supported operating systems inside of the CS Proj. And this brings me back to like, finally, we figured it out. Like Xamarin did it right forever, right? Like we did it. We did it right. But now it's like so much even better. And what I mean by this is really when you think about it, there's two important points of compiling and targeting an operating system, which is I need to compile against the iOS 14 SDK, but I need to support iOS 10. And that's really complicated, right? Because what APIs do you expose? Do you only expose the iOS 14? Do you only expose the iOS 10? How is that done correctly? And as developers, Frank and I, we know for mobile development with Xamarin for a long time, you would basically do that. You would say, I want to compile against the latest SDK. And luckily, both iOS and Android support this sort of back compat saying, I want to go back there. And you would say, if, do your operating system check version, then I can call this API. If not, I can't. But now you can literally in your target framework say, I would like to support, .NET 5.0-iOS 14. And then you can say supported, iOS 10, right? And then the IntelliSense knows everything. Will give you warnings. It'll give you squigglies. And then on top of that, what's cool is they added a new API that says operating system.isWindows.isIOS, and you can pass in the version number. Finally, like we did it. It's like, it's in there. So boom.
Okay, that actually does sound pretty good. I can't believe you picked such a nerdy topic. I'm like, are we
Standardized.
really build targets? That's what we're going with here. But okay, you
Yes.
kind of won me over a little bit. Um, I was thinking, yeah, like I run into that with .NET Core, and the way I handle that is you do like a global JSON, and that way you can kind of pick the SDK, and that can be different from the thing that you're actually targeting. That's how you can get that difference. So it sounds like they're just kind of cleaning that up too. Does it go very far back? Could I use the .NET 5 SDK to create .NET Core 2.1, or is that not allowed?
No, this is more like I'm going to target Windows, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to build a Windows thing, and then I am going to also support Windows 7.
Okay. Does it support multi-iOSing then? Multi-platforming? Whatever you want to call it? Not
It,
multi-targeting then, or is it still called multi-targeting?
I think it's multi-targeting. Yeah, you should be able to up in there. I think.
Mm, okay,
I don't
I
know. They
like it.
didn't go that far. All I know is Emo told me that multi-targeting is like a key experience in .NET 5, .NET 6. So,
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah. And that's actually kind of funny because I run into that stuff constantly. And it's not just old apps. Like iOS 14 just came out and one of my apps uses a little bit of reflection and it's a little bit of doesn't really check itself. It's just like goes, looks at whatever properties it can see, throws up whatever properties. And there's this annoying bug where if it's running on iOS 13, it uses reflection, sees that the API exists, so tries to call it through reflection. Operating system throws down the hammer and crashes the process because he tried to access. Um, Worst case, it's not even a non-existent API. It's one that was private but became public. So that's why like they really shut down your process if you try to touch that API. So this version stuff matters. So I am happy that it's getting taken really seriously.
yeah, give it a look. Give it a look. All right, what is your your next pick? We'll just go back and forth. Top picks.
Okay, yeah, this is fun. I have to do the language one. I think we've already talked about it a little bit. C#9 records. This is a big part of why I love F#, honestly. The ability to, in very few lines of code, I know you can make the argument lines of code don't matter, but it matters a little bit. In very few lines of code, you can create data objects, data classes that are immutable. This is very different from C#'s normal default of creating mutable objects by default. These are immutable by default. And it's good to have that complement. Like, you don't always want mutable objects. For example, the string object is not mutable for good reasons, because code would be very complex if string was mutable. So there are just times when you want to create immutable objects, especially like if you're like me and you've been drinking the functional programming gin, we'll call it. Yeah, wine, whatever, and you just really love these things. And I think that are a big part of creating really robust software that can run on multiple threads. Lots of good reasons to have immutable objects.
Yeah, I just did a demo recently talking about C#9 in one of my keynotes for the .NET Dev Summit last week, which is a community run event out of Singapore. And I sort of did your normal kind of record demo, which is I have a person, a first name and a last name, and I can collapse it down and do all this stuff. And then I talk about override and like the new, instead of get set or get private set, you have get init, which is basically private, init for yourself. So you can have a constructor. Now, the thing about records that are cool is like you're saying is immutable. And there's this new syntax where you could say, let's say you have a person, Frank, you could say Frank with basically, and you could, I forget what the syntax is exactly, but basically you're creating a new instance of it, like a kind of a copy, right? I mean, it is a copy. It's a deep
Yeah.
copy in a way.
Shallow.
Shallow
Shallow
copy.
copy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The neat thing is that it's not deep. That's why they're kind of cheap, because they are shallow. And if you think it kind of through, that because they're immutable, because they're shallow, you can reuse parts from other objects. And that's what kind of makes them so useful. So when you first talk about how functional programming works, where you're conceptually, semantically creating new objects constantly, that can be very wasteful. But this is a little trick in functional programming to reuse old objects and parts of old objects. And that's safe because they can't be modified. So it's just a nice, safe operation. So they give us beautiful, shallow copy. Oh, I've wanted shallow copy for a long time.
Well, it's sort of like, I was thinking about a few things that I saw in like continuous when I got to dev on it a little bit, but, if you think of like undo technology, imagine every single step is it's like you just have a dictionary of all these things and you forever have, and it's a state, right? It's like almost makes it very stateful to say, oh, what is the state of the editor right now? Well, it's index 0, it's index 5, and it doesn't matter because it's like, this is the current representation of what the data is. It's kind of similar to like an MVU style-esque,
Yeah.
way of thinking about it. And I thought that was really neat. just how it works in general and how you can easily create new copies and not have to worry about. I've so many times in my code I have these, dot copy functions that do certain things, and I was like, oh, it's so annoying. Just like tweak one thing because I wanted a whole different instance of it,
Yeah.
and then you don't have to worry about that anymore.
And you never know when you write that function whether to do a deep copy or a shallow copy. You start
True.
to write it and you write the shallow one, then you're like, that collection. Should I be copying every element in that collection? And it's a conundrum because it's mutable and you don't know what's safe and what's not safe. You have a big question mark over it. With immutable, you don't have that question mark anymore. No, it's safe to reuse it because it can't be edited. It's
Yeah.
that simple. And I really love the duality that state by definition is mutable data. It changes in time. That is the definition of state, data that changes in time. But it turns out that the safest way to model that and use that is with immutable data and just swapping pointers. And so your state is just a pointer to an immutable object. Whenever you want to update the state, you just point to a new object. And for multi-threading reasons, you can imagine why there are so many benefits to that simplicity.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I was immediately going through a bunch of my code, seeing what I could update to records. And there's a bunch of other great C# 9 features, which we did talk about, but I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more. But my next one has to be the brand new, it doesn't actually really do with .NET 5, but with Visual Studio 16.8, which is the brand new XAML Hot Reload 2.0 that Maddie announced today.
I saw this. I have an interest in the Hot Reload family of products, and so I'm always curious to see how these are going. And wow, it's looking good. It's looking really good. A feature I noticed that they called out was it'll update the UI without having to hit the save button, and that was always one of my pet peeves. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to hit the save button either. So it's like, yeah, you go, no save buttons.
It's true. Yeah. So previously, how at least for Xamarin Forms and I think for all of them, I'm not really sure if UWP and WPF are different, but basically with Hot Reload, what it would do is you would save the file and it would basically refresh your entire page. It would say, here's the new XAML, go. And that's a little complicated because it's going to throw away your state if you haven't set it up correctly, right? If it doesn't really know about your code behind, so if you set in the code behind, it's going to work. But like, what about if you entered something on the page? Is your view model going to keep it? If I just had an entry, it's going to go away, right?
It was one of those things that if you took a purist view towards XAML and did everything by the book, it
Yeah.
worked perfectly. But me, I don't do anything by the book, so it would always kind of fail for me. And I've seen you take exceptions by the book sometimes from the book.
I do. Yeah. I kind of live your own life, I like to say. And yeah, so this is really cool. So there was a lot of productivity stuff. So the first thing that Maddie showed off was that it works with UWP with Xamarin Forms, which is cool. And all the adornment stuff work, all that stuff, which is really cool. The live visual tree works, which means you get to see a DOM representation of all the elements on your page. Kind of like F12, when you're on a developer page, you can see all the elements in the HTML. You can click on one and go to it. Exactly the same kind of like in the browser type of tools. As you're typing, it will look for valid XAML. Once it has valid XAML, it does, it has like basically, I'm going to call it a DOM. It's basically a DOM, right? It has the DOM structure of the XAML and it knows how to add, remove, update each of those elements. So if you add an entry, it only just, adds that inside of it. And it's not going to modify the rest of your state of your application. So if you add an entry, you type in it, then you change something else, it's going to stay there, right? It's all good, basically. They added color adornments, which is really cool for colors, which is rad. And then this works on iOS, Android, and Windows across the board. Everything works great and it's there. And I've been using it for a while and I'm super impressed by it. It's really, really good. I'm really excited for, it's not officially called XAML Hot Reload 2.0, but I was working with Maddie and I go, we got to call it XAML Hot Reload 2.0. I mean, it's 2.0. It truly like there's like literally in the options, there's like version 1, version 2. And no one's going to call it applied changes. Like that's the developer term, applied changes.
I think she sold it as a 2.0 because
She did great.
what I heard her say was we rewrote it from scratch, and that's when I was just kind of like, ooh, Okay, now I was curious before. Now I'm a little scared, but okay, show me what you got.
Well, I think luckily there was a lot of work already done for WPF and UWP, and it's bridging the gap. So all of them use the same exact technology, which is cool. And that's a runtime update, a framework update, and a tooling update to make it all happen. And it's exciting. So that was kind of my big one. But yeah, no, she sold it that way. And then it was funny. I was watching Dimitri's session later, and he goes, like, when we got the new, apply changes, Maddie may have called it Xaml Hot Reload 2.0. That's not the name of it. And I was like, yeah, it is the name of it. I was like, come on, man.
Politics.
Because he's the
That's a good
PM
one.
owner, I think, now. So I was like,
Is he?
come
Yeah.
on. I'm like, it's new.
It's his responsibility,
know.
He's got to defend the name. It's his job.
2.0.
That's
I think
funny.
2.0 sounds great. It's like, whoa, this is like, it's new, right? This is a new hotness.
Yeah, and we're still on Web 2.0, right?
Yeah.
Have we advanced to 3.0? No, we're still on 2.0.
Web V next? I don't know.
Ugh, don't say that.
I hate
right.
V next. I don't like V next anymore. I'm
No,
over
I
it.
know.
Everything's a V next. I don't know.
Even then, I use it all the time in like my app planning. Whenever there's a bug that I don't want to work on, I VNext milestone that puppy.
V-next.
Yeah.
What's your next one, Frank?
Thanks.
What you got?
Okay, I have to do another language one because I'm a language person, and I'm really debating between the two, but I gotta represent, so I'm just gonna represent F#5. F#5 is here.
Ooh.
Yeah. So this is a nice cleanup of the language. I hate to say it. Usually I like to brag about how C#'s always stealing F# features. I think I did it a little bit with the record stuff. I low level. I did it.
Low level.
But in this case, F#'s getting C# features. So the big one, fan favorite, is the interpolated strings, where you can just put variables into strings. It's just good syntax, the $, double quote kind of string
You
thing.
didn't have that?
Hey, we had sprintf, all right? It's
Oh.
good. Sprintf
Okay.
is pretty powerful. It's nice. But yeah, we were kind of stuck in the C level days of how string formatting should go. So yeah, I mean, it's those little things, you would think it's nice. It's nice. I'm just going to say that. Plus, we also got indexing. You know how it's a feature I don't think you use very much, but I keep trying to force myself to use it. The crazy indexing that you can do on strings now with ranges
Oh,
and
yeah.
reverse lookups and the dot dot notation.
Mm-hmm.
F# has had a form of that pretty much since version 1.0, but it wasn't as full featured as the version that C# got. That's maybe a bad way of saying it. It wants to be compatible because these are all .NET languages. They need to be able to talk to each other. So they cleaned up a lot of the scenarios with that stuff. You may not care about multi-array indexing, but it comes up in machine learning all the time, and it comes up in graphics work all the time. So I actually use it a lot. And honestly, just for working with strings, it's just really nice because
Oh, nice.
I've typed, blah 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 dot substring way too many times in my life. I don't need to write that anymore.
Yeah, I like that. I watched Philip's session. He was going through all sorts of crazy F# features, which is pretty cool. I need to rewatch it, but yeah, there was a lot of good questions. I remember I was watching the Twitch and the YouTube page, and a lot of people were seeing the session and seeing F#, I think, for the first time, and feel like, what is this thing? What's going on here? And I think there is still confusion of like, when you should use or learn F# versus C#. And a lot of people had good, compliments, like, C#, VB, and F#, they can technically do anything in the .NET world. That's the hope and the dream. We talk about C# often because it's the largest developer base, but that doesn't mean that VB and F# don't have their great use cases. And sometimes you just fall in love with the language and you're like, oh, I can also use it for XYZ, right? I think often with functional programming, we think about things that are more reactive or things that are more machine learning based or data analytics. It's a really good way of modeling that. But of course, you can blend these languages together. I think we don't talk about that enough of, hey, like here's a great use case of using F#. Here's why you should learn a little F# if you're a C# developer, right? It's not a battle. I was trying to not like censor people in the chat because I had like a mod powers, but like, it's not a battle, right?
Yeah.
Like it's hey, each of these languages serve a purpose, and sometimes you can blend them together and have great success. Or like if you like one, just use the one. Like there's no battles, right? It's not political, right? It's
Yeah.
just a language.
And it's not team sports. It's
No.
none of that stuff. This is just engineering, preferences, economics. There's a lot of reasons for languages and that kind of stuff. Part of the reason I fell in love with .NET was it's the CLR, the Common Language Runtime.
Hmm.
I wanted the ability to write programs in multiple languages. Like, that's simple. Like, I saw the advantages of different languages. And I just like to promote F Sharp because I think it's one of the best programming languages ever created. Just gonna
There you
put
go.
that out there.
Yeah.
And it's at version 5 now, so rejoice. And I should also say, the way the whole .NET Core ecosystem has come together with Mono and everything, there are no downsides to using F Sharp anymore. Like, it used to be that like F Sharp maybe would fall behind or it just wouldn't be able to keep up
Hmm.
with the runtime, little things like that. But now everything's shipping together. That's kind of what I love. F Sharp 5 shipped with C Sharp 9. Everyone's in sync. We're all hitting the same runtime. We know what's happening. And I like that reliability. I need reliability right now.
And I like it, right? I think you're right. One of the biggest things from today for .NET Conf as we're watching it is that, we had updates to Visual Studio for Mac. We had updates for Visual Studio on Windows. We had .NET releases across Mac, Linux, and Windows all on the same day. We got new language features for F Sharp and C Sharp, right? And VB there's too. Like, everything is there. And like, if you actually take a step back, that's kind of miraculous. Like, that's kind of crazy to think about that when we're talking about shipping Visual Studio, you're shipping like .NET. It's like, oh, you also shipped updates for WinForms, WPF, Xamarin, Mac. Like, there's ASP.NET, right? Like, all of these things came together in a singularity because we're .NET developers and we can build all these things. I think that today is my final takeaway is like, it's all here and it's all really happening. Like, this is just the first step. But to me as a .NET developer, I'm super excited about everything that's sort of happening. And also, by the way, last little tidbit here before we get into Apple Silicon is, I don't know if you saw the runtime. Did you see the runtime panel with like Rich and there's two other engineers that like are really deep on the runtime? Like,
No, now I'm upset. I'm a runtime person. I love runtime stuff. It had to have been recorded, so I'll definitely just have to catch up with that.
it's good. And they go real deep on stuff. So they totally lost me immediately. But Rich did say that they are working on support for the new M1 chip that we'll talk about for .NET 5 to run natively on it, which is crazy. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But let's take a quick break and thank our amazing sponsor this week, Syncfusion. Listen, Syncfusion, you love Syncfusion because they make all of the amazing controls for your applications so you don't have to. Whether you're building Xamarin applications, ASP.NET Core applications, .NET 5 applications, WinForms, WPF, and TypeScript, JavaScript, all the things, they have thousands of controls for your applications. Listen, I use Syncfusion in all of my applications personally. I love them. I can contest. I love it. They have a free community license too. Oh my goodness, it's so amazing. Go to syncfusion.com/mergeconflict to check out all of their amazing controls. Anything you're building, if you're getting into Blazor, they got all the controls for you too. Syncfusion.com/mergeconflict. And thanks to Syncfusion for sponsoring this week's pod.
Thanks, Syncfusion, and I love their Blazor controls. That was the first thing I went to check out because Blazor's a little anemic when it comes to controls. So it's like, I need me some controls.
It's true. All right, before we get into the next part here, let's take a quick 2-minute break so I can go get some more wine. Frank, how do you feel about that?
It's an edit point. It's your problem.
All right, here we go. And we're back. Oh my goodness. All right. Let's get a
Is
quick
there is
edit.
there really an update to the installer? I'm excited that the installer is getting updated.
Well, the Visual Studio, every time there's a release of Visual Studio, there's an update to the installer. You're
No,
not on Windows, so you don't
it's
get
a
it.
joke. No, no, I get it, dude. I've been using Visual Studio my whole life. But no, this time it's the updater for the updater. That's getting updated. Like there's gonna be a new version of that. That doesn't get updated that often.
They get to update like once a month.
Like security stuff, but not graphically. It's gonna be a new style.
Oh, is it?
I think so. At
I
least
don't
the new
know.
text. They're gonna replace the text.
I'm launching it right now. Hold on. The Visual Studio installer.
The
No,
installer
it
for
looks
the
the same.
installer.
It's the installer for the installer, Frank. It's exactly the same.
All right.
I updated today. I'm very excited. Anyways, all right, let's get back into it. Let's do a quick edit point. All right, Frank. So that was .NET Conf 2020. Any final words before we get on to the Apple event, which happened 2 hours after the start of .NET Conf?
I'm overloaded. No, it's a big moment. I can't believe that we're only giving a half hour to .NET 5, but I'm sure we're just going to talk about it for the rest of the year. Also, because it's the new hotness. So
Yep.
don't worry, we'll dive deep. And I feel bad because I left off a bunch of features from F Sharp, but I can't believe the two I actually chose to pick. Anyway, let's move on to the Apple stuff. It's way more fun because silicon, hardware, that stuff is great. And it's not Intel. How creepy is that?
That's correct. Well, we both have an Apple DTK, and I am proud to announce that my Apple DTK, the developer transition kit, is officially dead, Frank. It never really had a chance to begin, but it refuses to turn on. It refuses to update. I've followed all the things. I opened a ticket with Apple, and I said, Apple, give me my $500 back because this thing does not work, but do not fear because there's new Apple Silicon here. Now, we talked about this before because the Apple Silicon is really exciting because Apple is creating a system on a chip for laptops and desktops machines. And this has a lot of implications that we'll talk about. But Apple came out and they announced a brand new chip, which they're calling the M1. I don't know what the M stands for. Mac 1.
That's what I took it as. Of course, it's the Mac 1. It's the first processor for the new Mac.
And there you go.
This is super cool. To be reductive, they are putting AppKit and OS 10 on an iPad, and it's kind of awesome. And we've been looking forward to this basically all year. How long's it been since they announced this? Whatever. I've been looking forward to it for a while.
Yeah, it's been 7 or 8 months. I mean, we've had our DTKs for a while at this point. I mean, what is time, like you said? But did they announce it at WWDC, which would have been June? That seems too soon. Too soon. No, it was before that,
Okay.
right? I don't know.
No, let's not talk about time. That's a stupid subject. I'm very sad that you're a bad caretaker and that you broke your DDK.
I didn't do anything. It's just sad here, Frank. I didn't do anything. I didn't even get to test anything. I reported tons of bugs. And then I went to, here's the thing is I went to go update it to the newest Big Sur and all this stuff. And then it like refused and I didn't want to do it. And then I installed the profiles. I put it in recovery mode. I was like, no. And then I was like, oh, you know what? Today I'm just going to do recovery fully, which means I have to take my MacBook from 2013, update it to the latest Big Sur, which is like a big undertaking because this MacBook from 7 years ago should not be running Big Sur. That's inappropriate. So I update that because it has to be running the same version, install random Xcode beta, install some random tool that Apple has from the store that looks terrible, and then turn on my Mac into recovery mode, plug my MacBook Pro into my Mac Mini that's running the DTK, and it should show up, but nope, it refuses. It only turns on 1% of the time. And when it does, nothing comes out of the HDMI. So I can't even see what's going on. And it just constantly like turns on the light for a minute and then turns off the light and then turns the light back on. I don't know. I'm puzzled. I mean, it's a DTK. It's not representative of the final product. Obviously, not running the same chips.
However, I did look at their the shots because part of the announcement was not only that they make a new processor, they put computers around it also to make it easier to use that processor. And one of
What?
those I know.
What? What do you
Revolutionary.
mean?
And one of those metal frames they put it in those gorgeous renders that they were
Mm.
doing was the Mac Mini. So the Mac Mini is back. That's actually the form factor we got in the DDK. And I was curious if it was going to be very different from the DDK, but at least the back panel looks pretty identical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of chip we actually got in our hardware, so it's hard to. I don't want to look at performance numbers or anything on there, but oh boy, did Apple want to talk about performance numbers though, because
It's the fastest
reminiscent,
thing since the fastest thing that you ever heard, and everything else is slow and terrible, and our thing is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
they kept saying, 3x faster, 2x faster, 10x faster. And I was doing my thesis defense. This is where you get in front of a bunch of teachers, you tell them what you did, blah, blah, blah,
Hmm.
and then they harass you for an hour. And one of the ones that always came up with is you can't say faster than without saying what the than is, the reference that you're referencing. And they would do that, but every so often they would come up and say, 2 times faster than the best selling PC laptop in this power class, asterisk, hashtag, hashtag. But it was all fun. Just as a technologist, as an engineering person, yes, as an Apple fanboy, but it's new tech.
Hmm.
It's a little bit scary because I really got into Apple. I looked upon it from a distance, but I really got into it when they transitioned over to Intel
Hmm.
because I was such a Microsoft Windows person that I didn't want to give up my Microsoft Windows, and I was even a Linux person. I wanted to be able to run all that kind of stuff. And so I really got into Macs when they switched to Intel. So it's a little bit nervous for me, if I'm a little bit honest, to like, are we ready? Have we grown this far to break away from Papa Intel?
Yeah.
We'll see.
It is very fascinating. I will say that finally they did do this really good description that I mentioned earlier in the pod of a system on a chip. And I got to let me see if I can break this down, right? Okay, so in a normal PC, there is a board and chipset, and things are all separate, right? There's like the CPU, there's the IO, the GPU is obviously separate. There's security things, and they're all separate. And this is how they've been built forever. But the problem that they have here is that all of those little bits all have to communicate to each other and often have to swap memory and bits around. So they're kind of copying data around, have to move it around. And what Apple really described with their beautiful graphics of system on a chip is they said, well, what if, what a system on a chip does and this architecture it takes, instead of having all these bits that are all separated out, it brings them all cohesively into a nice coupling that they can all access the same shared data. And like that actually, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, okay, now I actually understand the core architectural difference between an SoC and like the x86 machines that we have today. And that sort of finally I was like, oh, light bulb.
Yeah, nothing like a good diagram, huh? It's even better than that. Sure, it's good to get these things on the same kind of memory bus and all that. That was a nice simplification. But with a system on chip, you're actually trying to get it all onto the same die, like the
Mm.
same silicon. One of the big barriers in a PC is you have to go from silicon transistors to gold to badly soldered gold around a motherboard, through a maze, up the river, down the creek, into the RAM, through another gold bridge, back into silicon, and then do that round trip again.
Yeah.
And every time you change materials, you're going to get reflections. These computers are running at radio frequency speeds. 2 gigahertz, 3 gigahertz. That's electromagnetic spectrum. That is, you can't see that. Those are radio frequencies. This is not real. In some ways, it's not real. Period. False disclosure. So every time you hit a material transition, you have weird reflections and weird things that you have to account for. So that is the big reason everyone's moving to consolidate. It's one
Mm.
of the original reasons we came up with ICs, integrated circuits, in the first place. We recognized in order to get speed up, power up, we can't be going across metal bridges across these like long, infinitely mile long runways. We have to get things close together. And this is, in some ways, a natural progression, but also a step forward because it's one of those good, big steps, not a little step.
Yeah, and I think they really described like the benefits of it. I think the fascinating part is these diagrams were so important because I flipped over to YouTube because this was one of the first times that I've seen, at least I flipped over to YouTube and they were broadcasting on YouTube and on the Apple event page, and they had 900,000 people watching on YouTube alone. 900,000.
I did not know that.
These are
That
all
is creepy numbers.
And these are all not developers, right? So imagine you're going and talking to someone and you're like, well, why is this so important? Because the entire event was split into two sections, M1, and then here's the new devices that have M1. But like for the avid consumer, nobody cares that it's an M1 chip. Like nobody cares. Like nobody cares, Frank. Like, how am I going to go to my dad and be like, oh, you should really get this new Apple because it has an M1 system on a chip ARM processor. He's going to be like, can I get to like Fox News or something like that? You know what I mean? Like that's what he's going to want, right? I mean, just saying.
But it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant because think of the alternative. Imagine if Rosetta 2 wasn't good. Because
True.
then the answer is how will they know they have an M1? They'll know they have an M1 when no software runs on it.
True.
Because everything
True.
for Mac is compiled for Intel 64-bit right now. It's been that way for a long time. The brilliant move by Apple is not only did they build a high performance chip, they put the effort into software to write an emulation layer so that they could run Intel code. Uh, yeah, and I'm not even going to touch the Fox News quote.
Yeah, not me. I'm just saying, we have fathers and grandfathers and mothers and grandmothers. I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah.
I will say, though, Fox News did make a very controversial call. They didn't get it wrong. So just saying.
Well, so they were promoting lots of cores. Look at me, I'm just moving on. Lots of cores, James. Cores everywhere. So we got high-speed cores, low-speed cores. These are classic things from the iPad and the iPhone. I've had these for a little while now, but we're getting these neural engine cores. And Apple again is taunting me because they keep saying that they're going to update TensorFlow, which is one of the big machine learning libraries out there. TensorFlow does not run great on Macs. I'm just going to put it that way. It actually runs pretty terribly on Macs. So I am thrilled if Apple is truly getting TensorFlow running very quickly on these Macs. But I'm also a little bit nervous because they keep promising me that they're going to get TensorFlow running well on Macs, and it keeps not happening. But this is such a big change for them. I feel like and it's such a showcase for them because they keep promoting this neural network engine, this core is dedicated to this matrix multiply, basically, is all it's doing, that I think that they really are going to put the effort into it. And I'm excited for that they're putting so much promotional effort into it.
Yeah, and they really talked about three key aspects, and one of them to the machine learning aspect of it. But the first one they talked about was universal apps. Like, what does this mean for developers? Good diagrams, beautiful graphics. They're like, hey, apps today are compiled against x86, 64-bit for Intel. You can become a universal app and you'll compile it twice into one bundle. The person will get it correct. I was like, great description. And then they said, well, we also have the ability to run every single application, even if it hasn't been recompiled, which is Rosetta 2, which is the sequel because, like you said, PowerPC to Intel. Now we're Intel to ARM. Rosetta 2 is going to do that. And the funny thing is, he said, there's even some applications where Rosetta 2 will be more performant than running like the ARM code or something and then recompiling. I was like, how does that even make any sense? I don't understand. Just whatever their optimization is amazing, right? And then finally was basically about Metal, I think, that he started to talk about, which was everything is really going to be powered by Metal on the GPU and these new neural engines. Like everything's going to be super fast, basically.
Yeah, it's they were really promoting Metal to the point where they actually released a whole new developer video, not during WWDC times, which is usually when they release all their videos. They released a how to optimize for Metal for this M1 chip. And they walk through the little fixes they've done. The Metal API is good, but the Metal API is only as good as the hardware that has to execute it. And they were constrained by certain architectural decisions, certain power envelopes, all that kind of stuff. Now they're saying that this new version of Metal on this chip can run desktop class versions of Metal, because Metal's Metal, but there's, mobile Metal and then desktop Metal. There's
Makes
different
sense.
options you want to set on different things. And I even noticed this in the app that I'm running right now, iCircuit 3D. The shadows, the default shadow. If I turn that on in Mac, I get these really nice soft shadows. They're blended really lovely and all that stuff. You as a game developer are going to love this. I go over to iOS and they're all jaggedy. No
Yeah.
filtering, just jaggedy shadows. And that is specifically a hardware feature that is missing on a lot of the iOS device implementations of Metal. But they say that M1 is just going to have this built in. So this is some real power. This is some real dedication to, well, trying to get all us developers to start using the GPU. Like, please, developers, start using the GPU. We're giving you 8 CPUs and 8 GPUs. Please write multi-threaded code. Stop writing single-threaded code.
It's true. Well, they did talk about, Photoshop and Lightroom and a bunch of other applications that are going to be upgraded, games, do all this stuff. So they're really pushing it pretty heavily. And I think that the M1 chip is just was part of it, right? And it's exciting that this is coming out. And I was more surprised, though, that this really turned into a consumer event quickly, which I think made some sense, because then they focused on what does the SoC bring to not developers, but to you as the user, right? So the instant on, the extreme battery life. They even said to the fact that these new computers use so much less power that you are actually saving the planet by buying one of these machines, Frank. They kind of,
This
I
was
mean, they kind of said that.
this was my argument for you giving up your plasma.
Oh,
I'm
I
like,
see.
James, save the world. Just throw that thing away. But it's good, right? Don't we all want a 20-hour battery life on our
Yeah,
devices? Like, I don't charge things. I hate charging things.
it's true.
There is that terrible coincidence that this wonderful mobile device is coming out during a pandemic, and I'm not traveling right now. So I'm not sure if I personally am going to go and rush out to buy one of these new laptops. But I'll tell you, the next laptop I get is going to be this tiny low power thing, because you had the MacBook Adorable. Now, this is an Air. This isn't the Adorable.
Yep.
It doesn't look like it's too much bigger than your Adorable was. And that looked
No,
like the perfect machine.
the new Air. So the Air that was out previously was really big, but then they had the new Air, and that's when they got rid of the MacBook, which is what I had. And the new MacBook Air was pretty much very similar, the same size as had more of the is more distinct,
Taper?
more of
Yeah.
a taper. But besides that, it was more powerful. It was like, just a little bit more expensive, had all the, all the power. But you're right. This thing's going to come out at $999, which is a great price point. And it's going to be the most powerful MacBook Air since they created the MacBook Air, Frank. And yeah, it might be my next device too, because I'm really thinking like, how much faster is it going to be for my 2013 MacBook Pro, which is the top end model. And when you buy a device and you really get the top end one, it really lasts for a long time. I'm really noticing that. Like, my MacBook Pro 13, like, it's still a powerhouse, right? And I was looking at my processor that's on my computer here, that my buddy gave me, and it's 5 years old. But when he bought it, it was the most expensive processor that you could get, hundreds of dollars. I don't know why Jesse's so nice to me and gives me his old computers, and he builds them. But I was like, wow, like at the same time that he bought this really amazing processor, I bought the $200 processor, and it's like a night and day difference. I mean, this thing, it's again, it's like the fastest computer I've ever had in my life, and it's a 6-year-old, 5-year-old processor, right? But he bought the best motherboard, which means I could upgrade it to you get the life out of it. So I'm really excited to see like what are they going to let you spec out on that MacBook Air or the MacBook Pro? Is it a MacBook Pro that there came out? Yeah, MacBook
Yeah,
Pro, right?
it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, and I was already pricing them out because I just had to know. Uh, for me, if you do the kind of standard upgrades that you want, there's a little price downgrade if you get one less GPU core. I think it's like a choice between 7 or 8 GPU cores. but there aren't that many options. You get to choose the amount of RAM, but as far as I could tell, all the machines only went up to 16 gigs, so you're gonna probably want to cap that out. 8 gigs really doesn't cut it these days.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're gonna spend the rest of your money on a hard drive, which unfortunately I've learned when buying Apple hardware, you got to put that money up front because you run out of hard drive really fast.
Yeah.
So what I found was for me to buy a computer, I'd spend between 1400, 1600, depending on whether I went with the Air or the Pro. I do appreciate that they have proper cursor keys now. They
Mm.
got rid of those, bad kind of cursor keys. They are like half size left and right keys, which I don't love, but it's better than those full size left and right keys that make absolutely no sense. It has an escape key. Even the MacBook Pro one has an escape key. So it looks like the keyboards are all good to go. They've learned their lessons there. So I think you're just getting a fast little machine. The
Yeah.
biggest downside, as I can see, is you're not getting an Intel, but the rest is wins. Everything
Yeah.
else is just fine. Perfect.
Well, what I like about this, I don't know if they'll do it for a long time, but I really like that the MacBook, like all three devices they announced a MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, and a Mac Mini, and they all run an M1 chip with 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU, and up
It's so
to
clean. It's
yeah,
just so like as a product developer, they just must be smiling. They're like, "Look how clean our product line is." Fast forward
yeah,
3 years, there's going to be 8 billion different M chips. But
yes.
for now, it's nice and simple. There's the M1, it has 8ish cores.
It's very true. And I mean, and that makes it easy, I think, as a consumer compared to an i3 and i5 and i7. What do I want? It's like, well, no, this is what you get, right? You go buy one iPhone. That is what I appreciate about it. You buy one iPhone. It's like, man, they're all the same, right? Maybe there's RAM differences, but it's pretty much the same. Especially this year's, right? I love the Pro versus the Mini, the Max, right? Like all very, very clean. I love it. It's very Johnny Ives. Very clean product line. And I think that here's the thing. They are going to eventually replace every single Intel. And the transition, they said the transition has started, but like it's pretty full on. I mean, like you can't
Yeah.
buy a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air with an Intel chip anymore. They're gone. They're gone.
The only thing they didn't release was an iMac. And they probably have one. They just
Oh
didn't
yeah.
want to like replace the entire line right now. They didn't say like we're going to have this split line of computers. We're like, no, we're transitioning and it's going to take about 2
Boom.
years. And they
Yep.
said a couple of years, but I took that as 2 years. I'm like, yeah, okay, 2 years.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, shots fired. I don't have a problem with it. I don't use much software that is tied to Intel 64-bit. I
Hmm.
think when we made the 32-bit to 64-bit transition, that's kind of when we lost a lot of the old-fashioned software. People who weren't updating, you kind of lost that. And the fact that it's able to run Rosetta doesn't really matter. And then there's the huge benefit that we haven't even touched yet is this thing can run iOS apps. So
It's true.
you get access to like the largest and best app store on the planet. All those apps can run on your Mac now. How awesome of a machine is that?
Yeah. It's
It's mic drop. It's just like, oh yeah, that awesome store that has millions of award-winning apps.
although
Here they are.
the one thing we didn't get was a touchscreen, Frank.
I know. I okay, there was a great moment when Federici like put on the romantic music and he started lifting the lid of the Mac. It was usually their jokes don't hit, but that joke was perfect.
It was
That was
good.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be a teaser for the touch too.
Ooh. Yeah.
But it didn't happen and I was so disappointed. I think I was on the show and I said with a system on a chip, you throw in the touch controller. It's a tiny little piece of silicon so that you can interpret how that screen works. It's pretty much free. I don't know why
Hmm.
they're not doing it. I guess they don't want to crowd and confuse their product lines, but okay, cards on the table. This event made me love the iPad even more
Mm.
because I've learned what I want out of a Mac is a big, powerful computer. So, fine, if you can give me a big, powerful computer, that's great. But for the mobile stuff and all of that, I love my iPhone and I love my iPad. I love my touch screens. I like that simplicity. And I'm not sure if I actually have a need for like a portable laptop. There's all these great IDEs that run on the iPad now and all that
Mm.
stuff, and it's a touchscreen. So I have a few mixed feelings like that, but the Mac Mini form factor and in 4 or 5 years, maybe the iMac form factor are what
Yeah.
I'll be interested in.
I'm with you here. I mean, I have a Surface Go, I have a MacBook Pro, and the reason I like a touchscreen on even the Surface Go, even though it's not a very powerful machine at all, is I'm browsing the web, right? And I'm right there and I'm scrolling up and I just want to tap on stuff really easily. I think that Apple will do it, but I think it's going to take time. So their expectation is a multi-year process so that applications can upgrade, they can tweak the UI, they can make the buttons bigger when it's in touch mode, things like that, right? The small tiny X and the little thing, they need to be big enough, and they need people to optimize their app for tablet probably first to get the drag and drop. It's a long game. So I could see really 2 years from now, 3 years from now, it's happening, and we'll see. Maybe in 2 to 3 years, we'll see it happen. Maybe I'll be wrong. But I'm with you. When I think about what I use, I barely use my laptops anymore. I have two of them sitting down over here, just like I don't even want to turn them on because I have a desktop. I'm sorry, I'm locked inside. I'm locked inside. It gets dark at 4 o'clock, Frank. And
I know.
I also bought lights for holidays, and this is really cool. I bought a power thing that detects when dusk happens and then turns itself on and then turns off after 4 years. Amazing. Anyways, I'm locked inside all the time, right? Maybe I'll go on a walk. Maybe I'll go on a bike ride, but it's cold. I can't even go outside. It's rainy now. Like I can't even do anything. But you know what I like? I like my really big, powerful computer that I can literally do anything. Like I don't have to think about it. There's no compromises on anything. And I know a lot of people will say, well, they'll buy a MacBook Pro or they'll buy a Surface Book 2 and they'll plug it in, right? They're great devices, right? But at the same time, I've now lived the dream because you've lived it after you got your iMac Pro. Is I hadn't had a really powerful computer, and like when I upgraded this thing, it's got NAND. It's got the NAND flash SSD, crazy PCIe chip on it. It's got 64 gigs of RAM. It's got like a super powerful processor. Like it's got a 980X. Like it's so good, right? That at this point in my life, I'm not going to coffee shops and I'm not coding. Like that's the problem,
Yeah, yeah. But I in the power computer world, I can't wait for the M4 2 or whatever it'll be
Yeah.
when they have like the ridiculous 64 core
Oh,
version. Like that's
oh
going to be
yeah.
when I'm just going to be like, take my money because I
Oh
can't
yeah.
resist.
Oh,
But
I want a big, replace everything, replace this computer, everything. One big iMac Pro, right?
yeah.
Just big, beautiful Retina display, 64 core M18 processor. Like, ooh, now we're talking, right? That's an investment.
You know what kept cracking me up in their demonstrations? High production value and all that, but there was some cognitive dissonance. So there was this $5,000 XDR monitor that Apple sells next to a $700 computer. I'm like, so you bought the $5,000 monitor, but spent $700 on that computer, huh? Interesting decision making.
It's true.
I
That's
couldn't
true.
resist.
Yeah. That's very true. So the Mac Mini does start at $700. MacBook Air $1,000. MacBook Pro $1,300. Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I'm with you on the MacBook Air because it's the same processor, right? I guess can you get 32 gigs of RAM on
No, I
the?
think they all top out at 16. I kept trying.
That's
Yeah.
disappointing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
16 is fine.
Eh,
32 is where you're free though. 32 is where you don't have to worry anymore.
64 is better.
I'm kind of jealous there.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is better. Well, because if you go to the MacBook Pro 16-inch, very fascinating that they didn't go to the 16-inch, only the 13-inch, right? The 16-inch, you still get the Intel processor. So that's a little muddy. That's a little not as much Johnny Ives in that one there. But if you go to the 16-inch, you can go up to 64 gigs of DDR4 memory. Oof.
Is that with the M1? 64 with the
No,
M1?
no, it's
No,
an
no.
Intel.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
16-inch Intel processor.
Yeah, they must just not have the memory controller for it yet.
I mean,
Or
you
they're
can
going to build a big one.
you can get a $7,000 laptop. Anyways, I
Well,
digress. Yeah.
even these M1s, you could easily get over $2,000 if you bought the hard drive premium is real. Apple keeps charging for those hard drives, so it's easy to get these prices up.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm in. I mean, I think I'm very fascinated that they did go all in. I think it's the right call. I am a little worried that like everybody getting a MacBook Air for the holidays is now getting an M1 chip, and I'm very curious how that plays out. Like I hope that is great because everything they're saying is great at the end of the day, but is this M1 chip really like this is an early adopter chip? But like they went in, right? They're like, here's not just one. Like, Microsoft, they have the Surface X, which is their ARM device, and they have one device, and they're like, we're really gonna nail it down and really, the new one's way better. But this one, like, they're like, hey, this is our main, like the MacBook Air. That is probably the most popular selling MacBook in history, and they put it in it.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
And the Mac Mini is the nerd's Mac. It's
True.
the Mac when you don't want to buy a Mac. That's the one that you get.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely gutsy. I'm surprised though. You used the DDK until you destroyed it out of hatred and malice. You ran some software on there.
I did.
I'm impressed at how good Rosetta is.
Yes.
And so, sure, there's an engineering part of me that says there's some fatal flaw and it's not going to be exposed until literally a million people are using this thing. But at the same time, gosh, it seems very rock solid. And I would feel comfortable recommending one to non-technical family members, that kind of thing, because I feel like, Apple's going to support it. The software we've ourselves have seen runs.
Yep.
Maybe a tiny bit slow if it's going through that translation layer, but it runs.
Runs.
So it's up to us as app developers to port our apps to this ARM64 processor. So it's good that .NET 5 is out because that was the first official support for ARM64 on Windows, right? But as far as I know, Apple has actually contributed some open source code to help along Mono and .NET Core onto Apple Silicon. So
Get it.
hopefully we'll have that stuff up and running soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take some time. So that's why I really think the next few years will be an exciting transition period. But we're in exciting times. .NET 5, Apple Silicon, it's all happening. And it's already basically December. Oh my goodness. Well, thanks everyone for tuning into this week's Merge Conflict. You can, of course, go everywhere on the internet to find us at mergeconflict.fm. That is a website. You can go to it, www.mergeconflict.fm. Like a news radio station, except for we're a podcast. So there's links. And you can also watch us live on Twitch at my twitch.tv/James Montemagno. That's where I live code. And once a month we live stream. And also Frank live streams on Friday at twitch.tv/Frank Kruger. He's way better than me. So you should probably just watch him instead. But that's going to do it for this week's Merge Conflict. So until next time, I'm James Montemagno.
And I'm Frank Kruger. Thanks for listening.
Peace. There you go. There's a podcast.
Wow, 105, huh?
Yeah, not bad. Well, we took a little break in there.
2-minute break. That was fun. Hey,
Look at
thanks
that.
everyone in the chat room.
Yeah.
I didn't call anyone out, but that was super fun. I was definitely reading everyone's comments.
I like to go in there and I like to make a little comment every once in a while based on what people are saying. Those are always fun. So, yeah.
That's fine. I'm just going back through the chat room. Did we miss anyone?
Yeah, Hector says no coding. I don't code anymore. I'm a manager now, man. I don't got time to code.
You say that, but I think you've uploaded more to the App Store than I have lately.
That's true. Well, one day iCircuit 3D will come out. One day.
One of these days. I got
I like-
from Argentina.
Yeah, I like this one. The Swiftress was asking about Windows on Mac. And then
No more Windows
Siberian.
on Mac.
Like boot camp.
So they have some of those. It depends on how they implemented it, as far as I understand. So, what was it called? Hyper-V, the thing actually built into Intel processors, the thing that you actually need. Is Hyper-V the Microsoft one, or is that the Intel? Whatever.
That's the Microsoft one. Is Hyper-V?
What's the Intel side called? Whatever. You need that magic piece of hardware on the chip to make all that magic work. As far as I know, Apple has some translations for some of those, but I think it's on a per app kind of basis. So it's a little unclear what exactly is going to be supported. Like in particular, I think they have Docker and whatever VM Docker uses, so that you can at least still do x86 Docker if you want to.
That makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know about Windows ARM. Like I don't know. I want to know what VMware or Parallels are going to do. But I mean,
Yeah.
I just ended up not using too much of that unless I had a really super crazy powerful PC. Like if I had an iMac Pro, that'd be different. But like I ended up finding just over time, it just wasn't, a
Yeah.
super great experience. So I'd just rather do two machines. And I don't know. That's just kind of how I saw it. But nowadays you can,
I still do it, but it's definitely better. It's why I bought this beefy computers because I wanted to be able to run those different things. But like you, I bought a Surface Go, and
yeah.
even with that slow little processor, it's about as fast as Fusion. So like I might as well just use the hardware because
Yeah.
at least I get a touchscreen then. So it's
Yeah.
all good.
Thomas says loves WSL. WSL is cool if you're doing
Yeah.
Linux stuff on Windows. That's nice. I used to use Boot Camp. Ancient Coder asks, "Do I miss coding?" No, I still code. You watch me code every Friday on Twitch. I code all the time. And here's the thing: is
You just don't get. I'm trying to think of what the difference is. Would you call yourself a professional coder right now? I mean, yeah, you still would. I mean, you're getting paid to code. So,
professional developer. I mean, here's the thing: when I left Seton to join Xamarin, I left my career of 9 to 5 being a developer. Right? Does it make sense? Like I no longer get
yeah,
paid to code and
yeah.
ship code.
So you put it back that far. That's
Yeah.
where you draw that line. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I stopped being a professional developer for my career
Yeah.
7.5 years ago.
Okay.
Right. But I still am a
Constantly
professional
coding.
developer. I'm still a
Getting
professional
paid to
developer.
code constantly.
Like I actively contribute on Xamarin Essentials, on plugins. I ship app to the App Store. I write sample code. I do demos. I
As Thomas
contribute.
says, you can never leave.
Yeah, no. I love software development. It's where I am at today. It's why I made that transition because I love the freaking thing. I was on a podcast. I'm like, why did you change careers? Because I love the thing. Right? I love .NET. I love Xamarin. Like I just love the thing so much that I wanted to do more of that and help other people find that stuff. Right? That's why we podcast about the stuff that we're passionate about, we love about. Right.
Plus, you don't have to fix bugs. You just get to create like whiz bang demos, and you're like, I don't have to support that anymore.
That's
You're
right.
like
Well,
done. It's like a dream job.
yeah, I'm pretty excited. I mean, soon I'm almost out of the game of Xamarin Essentials, which is good. Matthew Leibowitz is really taking it by the horns and really just
yeah.
going to
Because
town.
Jonathan used to kind of be in charge of that, but now he's doing forms. So Matthew is taking on essentials. Am I messing up with the whole hierarchy?
So Essentials was really always me, John Dick, and Matthew Leibowitz. I would say that I was the PM.
Okay.
John Dick was the main engineering lead, and then Matthew reported John. And then, Matthew's doing a little bit more, but like Essentials is going to have this like really fun transition that we haven't talked about yet, but like it's going to be pretty awesome. I'm really excited for it. So really it's going to get more love than ever, which is exciting. But Matthew has now sort of really doubled down as like the code owner more than I would say that like what happened is Matthew contributed a lot of code and I contributed tons of code and John contributed a bunch of code, but it was like mostly me and John and then Matthew a little bit, but then Matthew like added Mac OS support. He just like added all of it, right? Yeah. Which is like pretty amazing. And then during that time, which was really early on in the year, but then he started to get really even more active on it because he used to do way more Skia Sharp and way more components and those things sort of settled out, right? Because there was one time where he couldn't work on Essentials because Skia Sharp was his life, basically. It was all Skia Sharp. There's new versions, all this stuff.
Hopefully it's more in a maintenance mode now. Hopefully it's not that much work.
Exactly. I hope so, at least. So now he's really just crushing it, basically, which is exciting. Cool. Yeah, Thomas says you can never leave. I hope to never leave. You code for fun, which is awesome. Yeah, I mean, I make the apps because I want to make the apps and they're fun, right? Even if I was doing it professionally, I would hope that I would love.
So that was wrong. I made fun of you for not doing maintenance, but you totally did maintenance because you added a feature to my stream timer that I appreciate. It remembers that I stream at 10 a.m. now. It's nice.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, it's auto-checked for me every time I load it now. It's very nice.
Did I ship that update? I don't even remember.
I think you must have because it wasn't doing it forever. I remember you talked about fixing it, but then it just started. It's checked now. So I'm like, oh, it came somehow.
Nice.
The Magic Fairies delivered it.
Yeah.
Good job.
Switchers managers become obsolete, but devs will always have their job. I don't think that's true. I think that a great manager is what people often stay, right? So sometimes you can lose great devs and they go somewhere else because they have a bad manager. I don't manage
Plus,
engineers though, but
neural networks are going to replace devs in 50 years.
there you go.
We
Oh,
just need to
Switchers is
collect
gonna
more
watch
data.
Queen's Gambit.
Have you done Queen's Gambit yet?
No, that's a
Can we
Netflix
get
show,
a
right?
Coffee House Splendors reunion episode just to
Okay.
cover the movie?
Okay, I'll do that. I'll tell Danny.
I would love that.
Okay, I can do that. Special request review of the Queen's Gambit.
I over obsessed on that movie, so I was a little stressed from the wonderful national politics going on, and so I binge watched the show, and then James, I binge watched it a second time afterwards.
Wow, a
I
Switcher's
went
watching it for
straight
a second
through.
time. Wow. Wow. All right, I'm gonna
Yeah,
watch
yeah.
it.
So I did the second time also.
Oh, maybe
The beginning
once I
is
fix the
just
TV.
really strong. Yeah. Oh
Once I
right,
fix the
your
TV.
TV list.
I'll get Heather in on it. We watched it. We are watching Mandalorian. Thomas, yes, we're big Baby Yoda fans over here.
No, I'm against Baby Yoda now.
What's your problem?
I'm not
Just
into
'cause he's everywhere?
cannibalism.
No, I
He
mean,
hates sentient life.
No,
I have a
hey,
strong moral
frogs.
code. They were sentient frogs.
the little baby, the little
Captain
eggs.
Picard never would have allowed it.
I mean, well, Mando said no.
There's the lady. She had language. She had society. She was not.
Yeah,
There's
but
a
Baby
difference.
Yoda is not. Baby Yoda
Good?
is not. No, Baby Yoda. I mean, we don't. It's undetermined. It's undetermined.
Well, okay. So in truth, we all know kids are evil. Like by the default nature of humans is evil. So we have to groom them and socialize them and domesticate them. So I understand that part.
Okay. Anyways, Baby
That's
Yoda.
how kids work, right?
If Baby Yoda could eat the frog, he or she would have ate the frog. Lady. Those spiders were very terrifying in the latest episode. But hopefully the TV's fixed for Friday so we can watch the new one. But anyways, it's good. It's great. Star Wars is great. It's awesome. It's all good. It's all fun.
Yeah.
Baby Yoda doing up the thing. Baby Yoda is everywhere this
But
year.
there
They're
are
like,
supposed to be like Clone Wars-y things. That'll be fun.
well, the first episode, they're like, hey, remember New Hope? Remember Tatooine? Let me remind you of everything in Star Wars.
Tatooine, the world no one ever goes to.
What is this new planet of all the planets in this solar system?
There's got to be one other planet out there.
Nope, just Tatooine. That was entertaining. Yeah, it's super good. It's super good.
Yeah.
Well, what else
No
were we-
worries
oh.
there. And I'm glad that's a slow one too. I don't mind that that's on a weekly schedule because I would just binge watch that in one night and ruin it.
I prefer the weekly schedule. I think it's nice. It's good. And if you want to wait because you don't need to like watch it as is, then it's good. Because that was our problem. We watched the latest season of Stranger Things, which is also super good, but we had waited forever, and we like binge like 3 episodes a night. And I was like, oh man, it's just you do end up just sitting in front of your TV for a while, which when it's dark at 4 o'clock, it's not a big deal. But you're
Real
like,
easy.
it's real easy to do. But then if you're just watching one, you're like, okay, well, I guess we're going to go do something else now. So, I mean, we've done both. There's no shame on either of them, but I go back and forth, because sometimes you're like, oh, that one episode was really good. I wish there was another one. Oh, wait, there's 18 more. I'm in. So,
And then you discover React videos on YouTube.
yeah.
It's a whole different rabbit hole.
Did you watch Ted Lasso? Thomas was asking about this. Did you watch Ted
Oh,
Lasso?
I did the Ted Lasso.
Oh, that's great. Did you know that Ted Lasso is from a 7-year-old NBC Sports spoof commercial that he did?
Oh, okay. I did hear that. Okay. Yeah, I don't know the whole story, but okay, neat. Yeah, and they bought up the rights to the commercial plot and somehow made a series out of it. That's insane.
That is correct. Yeah.
And did the commercial ever air, or did they buy it up before it aired?
No. Like the
aired.
commercial came out 7 years ago.
It came out though. It was on TV.
It came out on TV. It's a big thing. They did 2 episodes of a joke, and then they turned it into a whole thing, which is amazing for Apple TV Plus. So Switcher's asking, what is Ted Lasso? It's a show on Apple TV Plus, and it's basically this American football coach goes over to the Premier League in Europe to teach soccer, and it's hilarious. It's really good because he's just the most positive person in the entire world.
Annoyingly positive.
Yeah.
You want to hate him, but you can't.
It's
One
so
of
good.
those kind
Yeah,
of annoying
Hanselman
people.
recommended that to me. Funnily enough. Anyways, that's it. Okay,
Yep.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go set up this new Xbox, Frank.
Okay. Put the DDK in a box.
It's already
Put
in
the
the closet.
DDK in the Xbox box.
The DTK is no, it's in the original DTK box that they got me because I know I'm gonna have to send it back to them at some point.
Have they
Gim-
replied?
no, well, I don't know, maybe. They kept emailing me to like go update my status report of the bugs that I filed, and then I was like, well, I can't turn it on, so let's see.
Have you tried plugging it in, sir?
Yes, I did twice to 14 different outlets. I tried every outlet in the house
I just saw this commercial and it's creepy. It's creepy how good it is.
because it's just like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Frank, I'm tired. All right, well, have a good one. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank
Make
you,
sure that
everyone.
you subscribe to this channel if you're on it. I'm gonna code on Friday probably. Let me see if I can find a Frank Kruger list. There we go. There's a linky here. Boom, Frank Kruger. You can also follow him.
See
Everyone already
us.
follows me. There
Bye,
you go.
Ryan.
Bye, everyone. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
I gotta hit end broadcast.